Him is frankly a movie which many would find difficult to connect with. I consider the movie Him as an abstract world of art connecting to the ground realities of the game of American football. It is like a painting which you look at and get reflections of reality. But how many of us have the time to stand and stare at a work of art and appreciate its beauty and marvel at its loud colors and get fascinated by the language of the shades in there which silently speak to us as we gaze that work of art day after day in different moods? So, if you're an American football fan ready to experiment with a strange, artistically twisted movie, go ahead and watch it in the theaters. If you're a more normal movie watcher, skip it in the theaters and try it later on the OTT. And it is the amalgamation of horror, punk, exotic locations, drugs, music, and of course the harsh realities for the player of the competitive game of American football. It is the amalgamation which might prove too exotic for a gentle mass viewer who is more used to the movies with a more straightforward approach to deal with the premise and presence of the protagonist, the villain, and finally the resolution. The movie Him begins nicely enough with a child watching an American football game with his dad on TV and gets fascinated by his favorite player, Isaiah White, who's a quarterback. The child is devastated when Isaiah suffers a potentially career-ending injury. The dad encourages the child by telling him that real men have to commit sacrifices, and is clearly depicting the bond between them. Years later, the child is a rising football star called Cam or Cameron Cade, played by Tarek Withers. He lives with a beautiful black family. His mother has good brotherly banter with his brother. There are parties where hip hop is playing, and naturally, he has his agent, Tom, played by Tim Heidecker. So far, so good. You're with the movie in a natural fashion, but the all-powerful painter of the movie is just warming up and preparing the colors to be splashed on the canvas and boot you out of the real world. You get this first jolt when Cam gets a brutal head injury while practicing on the field. How he gets his injury would be a spoiler, so you'd have to go and watch it yourself. But this one singular scene sets you up for the rest of the movie, where the director and storyteller tell you to shut up and be ready for anything goes kind of a scenario for the rest of the movie. And that's exactly what happens. As your senses are disarmed, Cam goes for a training session for a week at a remote, strange location where Isaiah White trains him. Isaiah White is played by Marlon Wayans. He is a legendary quarterback for the San Antonio Saviors, and Cam simply can't say no to him. And then the movie just flies off the tangent. There are brutal scenes of training, there are drugs, blood transfusion, punks, rave parties, ice stubs, flying footballs from machines hitting the players point blank, and towards the end, it is a showdown where people's heads are severed, some others explode as the cheergirls play drums and wave their tom-toms. All of that because it becomes Cam versus Isaiah quest to become the singular GOAT, the greatest of all times. Now when you come back to the real life after watching all that punk stuff, you do tend to ponder that the movie does show all what actually happens in the real world. It talks about sports injuries which threatens careers. It shows how players have to inevitably retire against their wishes and how crazily they crave for the attention from everyone over the years, and how the fear of losing all that attention and possibly the fear of losing to leave behind a legacy can drive them crazy. It does show that the sports training is brutal with a lot of pain and painkillers and even drugs involved. It does show that players have to deal with emotions of the family, the difficult contracts from their agents, and the pressure of performing on the field under severe conditions and pressure. All that is there, except that all those situations and emotions are lifted away from the reality by the location where Isaiah trains Cam and the kind of people he has over there, which makes the movie a borderline horror movie without the ghosts themselves. There are jump scares, scary girls, ghost-like characters, blood, gore, and of course the whirring American football machines. Overall, a heady experience, which might either get you completely or you would just outright reject it as a lot of BS. While Tarek Withers as Cameron Cam Cade, a young football player who is mentored by Isaiah, acts well, the fact remains that anybody with a good body could have played his part. He doesn't do anything to spoil his part, so I would say he is par for the course. The character who is the backbone of the movie is, of course, Marlon Wayans as Isaiah White, a legendary quarterback for the San Antonio Saviors. His vibe in the movie is something which keeps it mysterious, dark, and gripping. I was wondering where I've seen this actor before, and then realized that I saw him last in White Chicks in 2004, which was a hilarious movie which I'd watched back then. Clearly, he has come a long way riding his talent. Kudos to Marlon Wayans. Would love to watch more of him. The music was good for a punk movie like this one and does good job of adding the thuds to the jump scares which the movie offers in plenty. Good job, Bobby Krilic, who is the composer. Clearly, the writer team of Skip Bronke, Zach Ackers and Tipping and the director Justin Tipping himself are brave folks, because such a movie as him would definitely face a lot of criticism from the mass audience. Probably I was also of the same opinion when I walked out of the movie theater. But the movie did play on my mind for a while, and looking back at it, it was kind of funny and creative in its own way, and I was more appreciative of its art as I thought about the movie more and more. The dialogues between the black men are typical, which will make you feel good and racy. There is one particular scene in which I started laughing. In that scene, Cam is fully nude on the field undergoing a test. The camera, of course, shows his upper body only, but you know he is without his clothes on, and Isaiah starts talking some emotionally moving things to him about family and football, and suddenly Cam realizes he's talking full nude, and Isaiah realizes he's talking deep to a nude man, and you as a viewer suddenly realize how awkward all this is, and it really makes you laugh. But all this pales into insignificance as what follows takes you in a deep, dark jungle where either you become an animal or simply choose to walk out the door of the theater. Probably it would be best for you to find it out yourself by watching this movie called Him.